Hello, my name is Willie. Thank you for attending. Today in this session, we are going to be going over one of the new features that was added to RoboHead and how you might be able to work that into your request process. But first, if you do have any questions, you feel free to use the chat option to ask those. If you haven't already reviewed us on G2, you can do so for more entries to win prizes. And the recordings of these sessions will be available after the session has ended. So, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about one of the new features that was added into RoboHead in the last update, and that is the ability to make comments on any file that is uploaded into RoboHead. You may already have some ideas on how to use that with files in your projects tab or files in your library, but we're going to focus a little bit on how that might be used with files that are being added to requests. Now, in this situation, what we're going to be working with here, we're going to go through a situation that I am sure a bunch of you are already familiar with, and that is taking some previous document that's already been created, and we're going to be, updating that to a new version. But we need to make some changes on that. So first of all, we're going to start with a new request, just as we would with anything, and we're just going to give this a quick name: 2024 sales flyer. Now, in the description, you may still want to type out like what it is you're looking for, what changes you're trying to make, and all of that fun stuff. But for this example, just to keep things kind of brief, we are just going to type in see comments on document. Now we're going to upload the document. And so we'll go to use the add file option. We'll go ahead and select the file. We're going to choose an old sales flyer here, and this is going to upload very similar to what people are probably used to and have done many times in the past. The only small difference here is that we do have an enable annotation checkbox now. You can toggle this off if you don't want annotations enabled for this file for some reason, but since that's what we're here for, we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave that on. We can go ahead and save it. Now that the file's been uploaded to the document, you'll notice that it has the familiar rename and trash icons, but it also has this annotate icon here. Now, you don't have to click on this icon. You can click on the document, but if you do see that annotate, you should know that this file is able to be annotated. So if we click on that, it's going to open it up, and it's going to open it up into a window that looks very familiar if you've ever used one of RoboHead's reviews. You've got the download options up here, you've got your toolbar up in the middle, and over here there is where your comments would be once they're added. There are none on here yet, but we'll get to those here once we add in a couple. So you're still going to have all of the same tools that you would have available to you for reviews. We've got the regular just add comment button, and we'll say, is this the proper clip art? Save that as a comment, and you can see that once we save it as a comment, we get little icons up here. It tells us there's one new comment, and we can go ahead and click on the arrows. We can expand that out to actually see the comments. We do have things like the free draw tool that works. So maybe we want to highlight this portion and say change this transition. Go ahead and save that. And since this is a PDF and it does have text on it, we do also have our text markup tools. So we can come here, we can choose something like the highlighter, and we can go ahead and highlight some text and just be like, this has changed to something else. So now I've gone ahead, I've made some comments on this document, and there are no approval buttons because this isn't a review. So once you make the comments, you can just go ahead and you can click the X, close it out, and those comments have been saved. Now, this request, I'm thinking that I may need a little bit of help with. Like, I don't want to quite submit it for approval just yet. I want to get some more input on it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to leave it as is, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it as a draft. So this is a draft request now. It's in here, it's saved, it hasn't been submitted for approval, but I can, make future changes. And one of the other things that I can do, and this is a newer feature, was added an update or so back, is I can go to the drop down here and I can choose manage team members. You'll see yourself by default, but I can go ahead and I can choose from other people on the list. And so I'm going to just choose Jimmy here, and I'm going to add him to the request and give Jimmy the ability to go in and modify my request and, fill out fields and add in comments and the like. So now that I've added him to it, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and send Jimmy a note. So I'm going to go to add note, and you'll see that now that Jimmy's been added as someone who can manage the request, I can @mention Jimmy. So I can @mention Jimmy here, choose him, and I can ask him, can you make some notes on the document? I'll go ahead and I'll add that note. So I've added that note on the request, and I've @mentioned Jimmy, and I've given him the ability to modify this request. So if we go ahead and we hop over to Jimmy's account, we can take a look here. Now this is all set, so we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of refresh this real quick. Get a new looking page. And so if Jimmy had have just logged in, or if he had have been logged in, this would have refreshed, and we'll take a look and we'll see that there's a couple of things now to take a look at. So Jimmy's now got an @mention. He's got the little notification icon that there's a new note in here. So if he clicks on that notes inbox, he can see the note where he was @mentioned and what it pertains to, the request it pertains to. But in his all active requests list, he's also got that draft request that I had created. Now he can use this to modify the request. He could go in and he could make additional comments and fields and change fields and whatnot, and he would be able to resave those changes as a draft. But Jimmy's not going to be able to actually submit the request for me. I still would have to do that myself. However, we're not after Jimmy to be updating any fields in here. What we want is Jimmy to make some changes on the document. So in this case, all he's going to have to do is open up the request to view it. And you'll see that he's got an option to download it, and he's got the annotate option here, which means that he can make annotations on it. So Jimmy can open that up, can take a look at the file, and he'll be able to see the file, see the annotations that I've made, see the comments that I've made, and he can add in his own. So Jimmy can come in here and he can be like, well, the only real update I've got on this is I'm just going to use the box tool here. And I'm going to draw a box right here. And he's like, can we get a picture that doesn't cut someone's head off? He can go ahead and he can save that. So now Jimmy's made a contact on this. So you can have multiple people taking a look at your request, adding information, and also taking a look at the files on there and adding their comments to it. So if Jimmy's done here, he can go ahead and close that out. He can go ahead and use his request action, and he can use the manage notes option to take a look at the note that I added. Go ahead and reply to that. He can reply to that here, and he can go @Willie, I've made my comments. Go ahead and save that. Close it out. And then we will go ahead, and if we switch back to my account here, I can go back into my request. I can see this file. I can take a look at it. I can see the comments that Jimmy's made. I can see where he's made them. And since he had mentioned me, I've got the reply to note here in my note inbox as well. So now that I've gotten Jimmy's feedback on this, what I can do is I can go ahead, can modify this request again, finish filling out all the fields, go ahead and I'm just going to add in the date fields here because those are required. If this were a real request, you'd probably fill out some more of the rest of that. But now that I've got those in there, we can go ahead and we can submit that off to the approver queue. So the approver queue can now, the person who is in charge of the approver queue can now take a look at that. They can click on the file. They can, take a look at the comments that were made. They can actually go in and if they would open up the file, they're going to have the ability to download this file as the original file, but they can also download it as an annotated PDF already. So if they do need to send this off to their designer for their initial mockups, they can just download the annotated PDF, and it's going to export that PDF with all of these comments embedded. And they can open that up, make the changes, and then go in and start the review process like you normally would. This is just a little bit more, a little bit more accurate way to start things off. You can, make your comments on the reviews, those are on the files that you upload, and those can be sent directly to the designers. And you can kind of skip that whole initial, feedback round and go right into the first design and, iterations from there. So hopefully that helps explain a little bit like how the feature is used and how to incorporate some of that into your request process. If you stick around, Eric Frederickson is coming up next with how to tame your project form. Thank you very much and have a good day.